Yo, what's up, YouTube? This is your boy Jay from Keeping It Real, your arbiter of gaming news and commentary, hitting you off with a studio production video where you know this is your channel, where all gamers' voices are heard. With your boy Jay, always dropping the word. Keeping them other gaming YouTubers like, what you heard? And where you always know, we always keep it all the way real. So what's going on, everybody? I just want to thank you all for checking out my studio production video today. And I just wanted to take out some time to thank all my new fellow gamers who are joining the Keep It Real family. I appreciate it and thank you all. And, you know, welcome to the family. This is a place where all gamers' voices are heard, so please feel free to drop any of your suggestions for future videos. I will dedicate the video to you. Have no problems doing it. This is what this channel is all about. So I just wanted to go ahead and dig right in like usual, man. Of course, like always, I'm gonna go ahead and link this one in the description. This one's gonna be one from Express, man, and it's on the PS5. And it's the title here is PS5 release date in doubt. Sony hints at another PS4 Pro style update. So I wanted to go ahead and dig into that, man. And of course, like always, is going to be linked in the description. It looks like our boy Jim Ryan is at it again. Now, this is the guy that said the PS4 Pro that all developers were just gonna basically develop for the lowest common denominator. This guy pretty much made an ass of himself, but you know, I digress. You know, this seems to be a common theme with some of these Sony CEOs and leaders of the company coming out and just saying ridiculous things and doing ridiculous things. But it looks like here that they're hinting towards, he hinted towards perhaps another incremental or another step above the PS4 Pro prior to the release of the PS5. So that'll be interesting, and I wanted to go ahead and dig into that, man, and talk about the prospect of that, because I think that would be a really interesting one. And I think that is going to have a lot to do with the pins. So basically the big question is Sony gonna try to come out with a Xbox X killer before the launch of the PS5? And I think to answer that question, you have to look at the circumstances of where we are now, and you also have to take in effect that if Sony is already hinting towards this right now, then that would tell you right there that Sony is very nervous and very comprehensive about what's going on with the X. And you know, of course, they try to come out publicly and act like, well, they're not paying attention, they don't really care. You know, in the past they've said ridiculous stuff like their real competition is the PC, which is ridiculous, but okay, then again, it's, you know, this is the type of stuff you get. And they're acting like, well, you know, Microsoft is just a fly, you know, on their windshield that they can just squirt off and it's no big deal. But when you see stuff like this, it's telling you, no, they think it's a huge deal. And the X, and not only just the X, but the services that Microsoft is providing, like Game Pass and Mixer, are really shaking things up. I mean, you got the X that's going to be providing things that has never been seen before in the console market, like PC quality, and also being able to stream and record games in native 4K. Something like that has never been done before. So it, you know, of course, Sony's looking at that and saying, well, what do we got? PlayStation Now? You know, so they're probably thinking about this and like, man, this don't look too good. Especially with the fact that, you know, Sony had just got hit with this SDK thing where, you know, they hitting everybody up saying, hey, here's the SDK, you take our stuff. They ain't playing, man. So as you can see, Sony will do anything to defend themselves, and that leads me to believe that it's quite possible that Sony is thinking of some type of Xbox X killer, prior to the release of the PlayStation 5. Now, of course, a lot of that is going to be depending on how well the X sells and how much of an influence and impact the X has on the gaming market. Now, if we start seeing sales just soar, which I believe we will, on the X, and we start seeing the PS4 sales start to dramatically decline and slow down, I think that's going to be a big red flag right then and there that is going to indicate that there is a huge shift in the gaming market. And I wouldn't imagine that Sony is not going to have some type of response. And it looks like from what's being said in this article from Jim that they're already possibly preparing for this. And trying to have some type of a strategy to counter the X in case the X just kind of runs amok and go out of control. And, you know, of course, there's a lot that would say that, hey, well, why should Sony does that? They should just chill and just bring out their exclusives. And I would agree to that because if you look at their lead, they have a good considerable lead right now in regards to consoles sold. And really, they just really need to get their exclusives out and get them out on time. And that's what they really should be focusing more on. But the problem with Sony is that they do not want to lose the power narrative, and they don't want to lose the this is where gamers play narrative. And I think that is what's going to be the major impact. If they feel that is being challenged or that is seriously being put at risk, I from what I can see from Sony so far, I don't think it would be beyond them to try to release a more powerful Pro version of the PS4. I wouldn't put it beyond them. Now, the thing is what's interesting is that how at that time how much of an impact that would really have, and because in my opinion, if you really think about that, now let's just suppose that the X runs them up, right, and it's killing the game, and as a result the PS4 sales slow down and the X is doing dramatically well. Well, if Sony decides to come out with a PS4, a higher version or upgraded version of PS4 Pro, you got to think of how much that's going to alienate the people up to that point who have purchased a Pro, and how much that's going to piss off their base. Because now, of course, the Sony fanboys would be happy, but they only make up a small percentage of the overall gamers of their demographic and their base. I mean, we're talking about most likely in the 5% range, maybe less when it comes to their fanboys. Probably like 5%, most likely for sure under 10% of their base. So most of the casual people, which makes up their broader amount of their base, they would be like, what? Are you kidding me? And I think that would be a great detrimental to Sony, because that wouldn't look good for them to be that. They would look very desperate, and they would look like, okay, now they're being very reactive and just being very desperate to try to rush out another console just to try to match what Microsoft is doing. And I don't think that will be a good look for them. And it not only that, I just think it would be a little too late, because if you got to understand that they still wouldn't be able to do what Microsoft is doing in regards to services. See, the thing is where Microsoft is doing great and is building a platform for their console, their hardware to stand on. And as you guys will see, there was a later report that came out and said that, you know, I was talking about this before in my other video, that Microsoft is actually making up for their lack of sales with their services and their software. And that's incredible, man. That tells you just how huge their services and software really is. And that tells you just how active Xbox gamers are on their services. And because that's one thing that Microsoft does well, is their services. So if you really think about that, that's something that Sony doesn't really have. So even if they come out with hardware, they don't really have the software foundation and or the services foundation to really stand on. And that is just going to lead to a house of cards. That's just going to eventually crumble and not really do well, because They just don't have the foundation to stand on at this point, and they're going to have to build that over time. And I just don't see that happening within the time frame of the X. And that's why I would think that even if they did do that, it will be a monumental failure for them. And you also got to take into consideration how much money that they would be investing into releasing so many pieces of hardware in such a short time, along with the fact that it would take resources away from PlayStation exclusive games. And you got to understand, it's not like Sony's just going to be able to poop out a better console that's going to be able to beat the X. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time and resources to make sure that it's a console that's done right and that can be very competitive with the X. That's not going to just come fast and easy. And that, along with all these marketing deals that they're spending millions upon millions of dollars on, I mean, I think it would be definitely a big detriment to their finances, and I don't think it would help them that greatly, because people would see that as just a big slap in the face. And besides the fanboys, of course, would be happy, but that they only make up a small percentage of people, and also they just wouldn't have the services. So in my opinion, I just would think that even if they did do that, it would be a monumental failure because of those reasons. But at the end of the day, regardless, either way, it would be really interesting to see. I've been telling people for a long time that Sony is very reactive. They just basically react to whatever another company does. They're not really necessarily innovators. They just react, and that's one thing that I could have a lot of respect for Phil. He doesn't just react to whatever Sony does. He actually innovates and does his own thing and stays in his own lane. And that's what's going to lead to success, because he understands that listening to the gamers and actually giving them what they want is actually the key to success. And also building a service and a network that allows for the fastest and the most efficient gameplay on internet. And because that's what it's all about. It's all about, these days, if you look at any of the big games, a lot of them are service games, like Grand Theft Auto 5, or like Destiny, or like Overwatch. All these games are service-based games. They're all games that requires a really good a really good network that has really good voice chat, and that's very fast and very efficient. That's not in maintenance all the time. That's not being hacked and all these other problems. And that provides you with the best quality service, and that's fast, and that is reliable. And that's what Microsoft has, and that's what they continue to make better and build on. And I think that's what's going to be the key to the future, and that's something that Microsoft really doesn't have. That Sony really doesn't have, and they're going to have to build that. So it'll be interesting to see how things shake out, man. That's pretty much my word on that. That would be my answer to that. That yes, at the end of the day, Sony might try that depending on how bad things get for them. But I don't see it to be, a success. It's going to be a great failure because of those reasons that I laid out. But I would love to hear what you guys think, and go from there, man. Keeping it real. All right, man. That's my video for this, man. You guys go ahead, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Until the next time.